Ketter at the Cabin presents B.O.C. with Ketter. Fly fishing, stories, connection. Now pour yourself a drink. All right, welcome back to B.O.C. with Ketter. We are in season 2. It is almost May, so fishing is hot and heavy pretty much everywhere you go. I do have another guest here today. I am excited to have him introduce himself. Also excited to call him a friend, so I'll kick it on over and let you introduce yourself.
How's it going, guys? My name is Dan. I'm not a guide. I don't own a fly shop, but love to fish. Put my passion up there with anybody else's. So excited to
Absolutely.
be here. Happy to talk about some fishing today.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'd say passion's everything. So Dan and I kind of have a funny story how we kind of started to talk to each other and then eventually met each other. But I think Dan's probably better at telling the story. So why don't you give us a little rundown on that, Dan?
Yeah, I mean, long story short, more or less, we just kind of met through mutual friends, really. I mean, it was a roundabout way of getting there, kind of from one person to the next, how it all connected together. But we started talking over Instagram not too long ago. We met in person at the Fly Expo, and now we're here. Fished together a couple times. It's been great.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's been fun to see it all kind of come together. And what's really cool about my background compared to Dan's is Dan very multi-species heavy. A lot of you know I'm pretty focused on driftless trout. So Dan and I have had a lot of conversations about how I can kind of expand into learning about multiple species and fishing for more stuff on the fly rod. So that's kind of where we're going to lead this conversation today, is kind of get into that multi-species talk. But first, and always important, are you sipping on anything special tonight there, Dan?
Well, this is B.O.C. with Ketter, so
It
I
is.
brought out the big guns for this. I only the finest Capri Sun Pacific cooler,
Dude,
so I
look
got
at
the good
you.
stuff. We're
I love it. I got
cracking
something
into
kind of
one.
funny too. I got a little Seagram's, little mini, little ginger ale.
Very nice. Hell
Cheers,
yeah.
buddy. Dude, the Capri Sun, I can't say I've had one of those in probably 10 years, but they probably still taste the same. They're probably still fantastic.
Tastes like childhood.
Tastes like childhood. There's nothing wrong with that. Awesome, Dan. So the first question I'm going to ask you, this is a great question. I think about this a lot too. If someone gave you 1 week, one truck in Minnesota in peak season, how are you going to attack it as a multi-species guy?
Well, I think I would start as far north as I could, probably on the North Shore. That's where I've done a lot of my fishing in the past decade is on the North Shore. I've done several trips where, rather than covering the entire state, I've just covered the North Shore. I'll start at the Pigeon up in Grand Portage and I'll work my way all the way down. So gonna spend a lot of probably the first half of the trip just fishing the North Shore trips. If it's peak season, I'm assuming it's fall. So there's gonna be salmon, steelhead, in those rivers. More salmon than steelhead. I enjoy the salmon, so we're gonna spend a lot of time doing that. Uh, Once I leave the North Shore, I'm probably gonna skip a large section of the middle northern part of the state. To be honest with you,
Yeah.
and go right to the Upper Mississippi. The bass in the Upper Mississippi, packing on the pounds for the winter. Do a lot of fishing there. Last fall, I did some spay fishing with some kind of sucker imitations for smallmouth, and that was a ton of fun. So doing that again. I'll probably hop over to the St. Croix. St. Croix is like the ultimate multi-species fishery. Um, After I moved back to Minnesota from a short stint in Florida, took 2 trips out there. The fall I moved back with our mutual friend Mitch. And in 2 trips, we caught 14 species, 10 species each time, totaling 14 across the two. So that's like the ultimate multi-species fishery, if you ask me. And then, of course, I'm finishing up in the driftless stream reading brown trout.
There you go.
So
I was getting a little worried
hopefully
there.
I can pack that all into a week. I don't know, but
I feel like you could. I feel like you honestly could. Like,
I'm gonna try.
honestly, especially with like a truck or something, you can sleep in the back and you can fish as much as you can. And I thought you were gonna skip out on the driftless. I was getting a little sad there. I didn't
No,
know.
honestly, the when it comes to trout and salmonids in general, it's the anadros kind of have my heart. But I mean, you can't beat the driftless in the fall. I mean, stream eating browns, they're packing on the pounds just like everything else for the winter. So
Especially,
great
yeah.
time
Like
to be there.
Yeah, especially in the fall, like you mentioned, it's such a good time, and can get a little bit of that caddis hatch still going on, that last little bit of that, and yeah, it's a good time. I would like to, as you know, fish more on that North Shore. But yeah, I would spend a lot of my time in the driftless area, but within the back of my head, I'd wanna be up on that North Shore too. That's it. Honestly, Minnesota's kind of set up perfect like that, where you can start high, as in north, and then just kind of work your way down. That's a great idea.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
on the shorter trips where I've just taken on the North Shore only. It's worked really well for me. I just usually it's like a Friday night. I'll shoot up to Grand
Mhm.
Marais, get a drink at the Gunflint Tavern on the rooftop there, chat up some of the locals, then find a nice place to sleep in the truck, and then head up to the Pigeon, fish my way all the way back down to Duluth over the weekend. So
No,
great time.
dude.
Highly
Yeah.
recommend it.
Yeah,
Peaceful.
that is cool. That is about as good as it gets, and St. Croix, I literally live maybe 15 minutes away from that river, and I have not fished it, which is really sad, so that is cool to hear that it's, that much of a multi-species area, so that's something I need to check out.
Yeah, it's a tougher fishery to tackle on fly for sure, but certainly doable. Certainly
Yeah,
doable.
yeah, I could see that. So, looking back in your time, what fish species has taught you the most about, like, becoming a better angler in general?
I would say probably the species I've learned the most from is steelhead. Just because if you're gonna target them on fly, like, obviously, you can throw a spawn bag for them and not knocking that, but, if you're gonna target them on fly, you really gotta pay attention to detail, and I think that forced attention to detail is kind of, forced me to pay attention in when targeting other species that don't necessarily require that, but you can find, specific bites. You can find ways that are more effective than ways that, might be conventional wisdom just by, paying a little extra attention while you're out there. I mean, the biggest thing with that attention to detail, just to get into specifics, is, uh, you know, where these fish locate themselves at. It's riffles and holes, right? Obviously, you're gonna find fish kind of, depending on where you're fishing, you're gonna find fish throughout the system, but specifically where they position themselves within those areas, I think,
Mhm.
can separate yourself from having like a one fish day versus, you know, 4 or 5 double digit, depending on where you're fishing at. So
Yeah.
steelhead have certainly taught me a lot.
I believe that. I believe that. You and I have, talked a lot about that, and that's a good call. You bring how, like, in the driftless, you're in a stream, right? It's spring fed. You're gonna know where the trout are, and it's like you come up to the spot. It's like they're either here or they're not, or maybe you spooked them or whatever. But it's like, okay, this is where I'm going to go to try to catch the fish. Where steelhead, and I don't have a lot of experience at all on that, but it seems like you can get to the water, and it's like that is the most important thing, is where are the fish, because they could be, from my understanding, they could be right at your feet and you don't even know, which is bizarre.
Yeah, I've pulled up to spots on the Brule and I've seen people standing where I've gotten bites. You gotta fish every inch of that river, and sometimes they may be in areas that a driftless trout would be. Like you might get your indicator to go down in the middle of a hole. You might get a fish to grab your swung fly, by a branch that's sticking into the water, but sometimes they're just not where you expect them to be at all. And
That's cool.
and you just have to, I don't know, pay attention to that kind of a thing, because sometimes it'll be in the obvious spots, sometimes it'll be, like I said, where people are standing, inside
Mhm.
of current seams. So everybody wants to cast across the river. Sometimes they're just
Yeah.
right in front of you. So got to pay attention.
That's exactly, I do feel like when I went my first time, yeah, I was trying to, cast way over there. I'm like, well, maybe I don't need to be doing this, because yeah, it's a lot. I mean, fish fishing in general, sometimes the fish are typically closer than you think. So
Yeah.
that's a good call out.
Yeah. You're standing on one bank trying to cast the other. Meanwhile, if you're standing on the other bank, you'd be trying to catch the bank you're standing on.
That's
So,
true. Hey,
it's, you gotta fish every inch of the river.
that's a good call. Yeah, I think Dan and I are gonna hopefully get up soonish here,
That's the
and
plan.
have some steelhead here up on the North Shore. So I got a lot to learn. So I'm excited to get up there.
You're gonna be natural.
Yeah, we'll see about that. We'll see. I'll try my best. No,
We'll
I
get on
can't
some.
wait, man. I can't wait. It's something that, I mean, just the North Shore and, the Midwest, it seems like it's such a culture thing, like, it's steelhead fishing, like, it's very rooted. I mean, when you look at the history, like, my grandpa I never met my grandpa, but he grew up in Silver Bay, and, like, that was such a big thing, like, just steelhead season, like, they all went out, they all went fishing, they would keep what they could because that's how they've, fed the families, and it's just very cool that it's something that's continued tradition-wise, so I'm excited. That's awesome, awesome. So, another question for you, and I think about this a lot, and I think you and I have talked about this, but do you think being like a multi-species angler makes you better at each individual one, or can it spread you too thin?
I think I would say if you're a multi-species angler, you're more likely to be able to adapt to whatever's out there. Uh, so, I don't know if it makes you better or, spread too thin necessarily. I don't know if it's either. I think it really just makes you more adaptable. Because sometimes you show up to a body of water and conditions aren't what you expected them to be. But if, you had similar conditions targeting a different species in a different body of water, you can kind of apply that plenty of times, especially on St. Croix. I've used uh, some tactics I've used in the Great Lakes. Um, not always necessarily fly fishing, but
Yeah.
so there's some stuff that you wouldn't expect Great Lakes type angling to apply to the St. Croix, but
No.
you can sometimes you can apply those tactics and turn a slow to medium day into a highly productive day. And same thing with the you know going from stream to stream, driftless to North Shore, Brule, things like that. I mean, that goes back more into what I was talking about fish location, really. But yeah, I think it just being a multi-species angler allows you to kind of translate bodies of water conditions more.
Yeah, I like that answer. I like that answer. I feel like it kind of like opens that door to just being super adaptable and just learning as much as you possibly can instead of just like, kind of hyper focusing in. And then it's like, for me, speaking from, experience, like I'm so hyper focused on this. And then it's like, oh, you want to go try smallmouth on the Mississippi? And I'm like, whoa, whoa, you got me way out of my element. Like, so it's very cool to see that, you can be adaptable and start to understand different stuff. So I think that's very important to be as an all around angler. Absolutely.
For sure. And even like, your first time out on the Mississippi, I'm sure you noticed some stuff that was similar to the driftless. I mean, uh,
Yes.
rock eddies. That's you're gonna find smallmouth on those, same as you're gonna find trout behind those in the driftless. And current seems obviously incredibly important. Slack water next to fast water. You're gonna find fish in both spots, even though two entirely different systems, two entirely
Yeah.
different species.
Yeah.
Those things will translate, and you can apply what you've learned fishing other places to places you've never fished before.
Absolutely, absolutely. What species has humbled you the most? And I feel like I might know the answer, but I'll let you go.
It's definitely steelhead. I don't know if that's
Yeah.
what you were expecting to hear, but
Yes. I was
yeah,
expecting
I
a
mean,
T-Rex.
yes, yeah, steelhead, absolutely, because it feels like especially early on when you're learning those fish, like the second you think you're on a pattern, the second you think you got them figured out, just the faucet will shut off. I mean, I remember specifically early on, I think it was my second spring fishing steelhead. I was fishing a new river, got pointed there by a buddy of mine. Uh, Went and tried it out. Everybody was catching. It was unreal. I think it was a Friday afternoon. Everybody was catching. I caught my PB that day. You look upstream, you look downstream, somebody's hooked up. And so I text my buddy and I'm like, "Hey, this river's on fire. Like we got to come early tomorrow morning. We got to get out here, and we got to, we'll catch a ton. It's ridiculous." And we got out there that next morning and nothing. The fish were still there. We didn't catch anything. The only fish that I even saw hit a net was snagged in the tail. Like,
Yeah.
which happens. A lot of guys bottom bouncing out there. It happens. I mean,
Yeah.
there's plenty of things you can do to avoid that, but that's just the nature of North Shore fishing. There's plenty of guys out there who don't bother. Um, but yeah, all of a sudden, we went from like felt like you couldn't keep the fish off your hook to there's no fish in this river. Overnight. A matter
Isn't
of
that weird?
14 hours. So just when you think you got it figured out, and then too, I've been kind of dabbling in the spay rod stuff too, and it's like fish I used to have no problem catching on an indicator rig. All of a sudden, it's a totally different ball game. And then just with steelhead being spread across the Great Lakes region too, just because you can catch them on the North Shore doesn't mean you can catch them in Milwaukee. Doesn't mean you can catch them in Erie. Doesn't mean you can catch them. Certainly doesn't mean you can catch them on the Brule. So it's always something new. You never quite feel like you have those fish figured out. I feel like so. I've been humbled many times.
Good, good. That's what keeps you coming back, right?
Absolutely.
Just when you think you got something down in life in general, just when you think you got something down, curveball's thrown your way, and it's
Yeah,
time to adapt and keep you
and
moving.
and I like to give an honorable mention to snook too, because
Yeah?
I spent a little bit of time in Florida, and it's those fish are funny because they'll go from, aggressive, out of nowhere, like, vicious strikes to, like, the pickiest fish, just because the water changes a couple degrees or the pressure's different or it goes from overcast to sunny. It's like it's incredible how much those fish can change. When they go from in the mangrove systems to out on the beach, entirely different thing. It's like I felt like I felt like I never quite figured out snook, but yeah,
Interesting.
they've certainly humbled me too, especially because a lot of the time, especially fishing the beach, you can see them. You see a pot of 12 of them, and you
Really?
can't do anything about it. It's yeah, it's that's certainly been a humbling experience for me many times
Oh, I
fishing
bet.
snook.
Yeah, there's nothing worse than seeing the fish and not being able to catch the fish. That's why I don't do a lot of ice fishing because it's like, they're right
Right?
there.
Yeah,
It's
yeah, yeah.
telling
No,
me
no.
that there's fish right there.
Being able to see them and not catch them is 10 times worse than
It's yeah, it's a
not know.
blessing and a curse
Yeah,
because 'cause it'll, like, keep
absolutely.
you invested where it's like, "Well, there's fish here, there's
Yeah.
something wrong with me, why can't I catch the fish?" So you stay and you keep thinking about it, but sometimes it's not meant to be, and
Yeah,
it's just
and
that's
and
the way it is.
and at the same time too, like, there's nothing better than sight fishing a fish, you
Yeah,
know? So
yeah,
there's that as well, but when you can see them and you just can't get them to just 0 interest, like, no interaction. Like, I was at the Au Sable River in northern, Michigan last fall, and the river was just packed full of coho salmon. I was there for Atlantics. Wrong
yeah,
time to be there for Atlantics, as it turned out. They were all sitting on beds. I don't really like to rip fish off beds,
yeah.
so I kinda I came at the perfect wrong time. The coho's elite, and it was packed full of cohos, and I probably put a fly in front of 3 or 400 cohos over the course of 3 days, and
Oh,
I maybe got interacted with 3 times. They were that was frustrating. So,
dude, that would probably drive me nuts after a few
yeah.
days.
Yeah, I ended up going home early. I had enough.
There's nothing wrong with that. Have you, on the flip side of going home early on a trip, have you extended a trip ever?
I
Due to
wanted
good
to.
fishing?
I've wanted to. I think, there's several people who could tell you I've kept them out there a little longer than they would like just because I never wanna go in. Uh, but but yeah, as far as, like, an actual, like, trip itself planned out, no, I've always had to stay on schedule, but, I would love to have that kind of flexibility. I work a 9 to 5, unfortunately, so it's you're kinda limited in your opportunities for trips like that, but
You are,
plenty
you
plenty of times I've wanted to, for sure.
yeah, no, absolutely. It just makes you enjoy it more, Your time out there is precious, and what you got is what you get, and make the best of it. That's for sure. So, I hope this answer isn't the same as your other answers, but what species do you think is the most misunderstood in your experience of fishing?
Uh, uh, Not too different, but it is a different answer. I will, stand up for salmon. I think a lot of people think salmon are like, these deteriorating fish that you either have to floss or snag, and that's not the case. If you hit the window right, I mean, early pink salmon season on the North Shore, I mean, they'll readily chase down a streamer. You can catch 70 in a day if you hit it right. I've heard of people even getting them on dries. I've never done that myself, but like the first couple days they're in, like early in the morning, I've heard, stimulator patterns will rise on those. Cohos will absolutely chase down a fly. Plus,
Okay.
they're beautiful fish. The males, when they get their spawning colors, they get the big kite, they get the bright fire truck red body. I've had some great times stripping streamers for cohos, and then kings. I mean, yeah, kings are they're boots a lot of the time. But if you can, I mean, if you find them, like I took a trip to Pierre Marquette last fall,
Yeah.
you know, and I got one to eat a streamer, and those fish have no quit in them. They've got crazy motors. They're big. They're powerful. They'll put you in your backing. And I think a lot of people think you either have to floss or snag them, and that's just simply not true. There's plenty of people out there doing that because that's honestly been the culture. I mean, I've talked to people in eastern Wisconsin fishing kings, and it's not legal to snag them, but they still do because it used to be, and that's just what they know. But I think a lot of people don't like to chase them because they think they won't eat a fly, but they absolutely will, and they're a lot of fun to catch.
Dude, absolutely. Last time you and I were fishing, we talked about that, the pink salmon up in the North Shore in the fall time, and, I got real excited. That sounds really fun, and I started looking at some videos on YouTube of dudes chase there's not a lot of people like specifically doing that,
Mhm.
content wise. So I was like, dang, there's not a lot out here. And yeah, it looks really fun and they look like beautiful fish. I've honestly never laid eyes on one live. So seems like a pretty cool thing to do.
Yeah, you hit it right early in the run, and, you can walk across them in some of those rivers up there. It's packed full of them, and, they are pretty fish. They definitely are pretty fish. The males, they get the big humpbacks on them, and they're cool fish. I've always thought they're misunderstood, 'cause, a lot of people in the fall, people are chasing steelhead at the Brule, and
Yeah.
that's great. I love that. Um, but sometimes you just wanna go out and put a beat down on fish,
Yeah.
and pink salmon are a great time to do that, especially, early in the.
Yep. Yeah. No, absolutely. I'll have those days in the driftless where maybe I'm getting my butt kicked by brown trout last 3 times out, maybe caught 1 or 2, and it's like, "Alright, I just want to go catch some fish and feel good about myself," and that's where I'll, end up at my local brook trout stream, and, they're pretty eager to eat, and, brookies are brookies, so it's like, "Alright, went out, caught, 10, 15 brook trout. Alright, I feel good about myself again." So, I can see that where pink salmon's kinda that same translation, so that's pretty cool.
For sure. Yeah, it's a super unique thing, I think, and I don't
Yeah.
think it'll.
Yeah, yeah, I'm excited. I hope we can make a little fall run up into that area. That'd be fun.
Yeah, and you can, if you're a hunter too, you can absolutely make a nice pink salmon grouse parlay weekend too. That is, most of the time when I'm up on the shore fishing pink salmon, I see people at gas stations, trucks coming by, everybody's wearing an orange vest. So it's the right
Dude,
time of year for it.
that never crossed my mind as someone who loves to grouse hunt. That would be fun. Do a little, I mean, are the pink salmon probably aren't tasting great, but I'm sure you could probably work a way around it.
I've never ate one.
No? Yeah.
Probably won't. I've caught a couple that were still silver enough where I maybe could have tried it, but it's probably more. I don't know. Probably
Yeah,
more
probably
work
get
than it's
sick,
worth.
man.
And yeah,
We don't want that.
right. Yeah. No.
Oh, man. So you kind of touched base on this in the beginning, but I want you to go a little more in depth on sharing like a moment where skills from, another species or another area directly help you kind of unlock another one when it comes to, different areas, different species. Go a little deeper on that.
Yeah. Perfect transition actually, because pink salmon. Like pink salmon. Specifically if you're new to steelhead fishing, you're trying to learn the North Shore.
Hmm.
Go pink salmon fishing the fall before, because when you go even if you're not fishing for them, everywhere you see pink salmon, there might be a steelhead there in the spring. They sit in all the same spots. So if you see a pool that's particularly loaded with them, odds are in the spring there's going to be higher than average amount of steelhead in that spot. There are times where I've fished rivers and I've seen pink salmon in spots, and walked by the same spot in the spring and thought, there was some pinks here in the fall. Let me just, put a drift through there. A spot I normally would have skipped, put 3 to 5 drifts through there, and I'm, bobber down or indicator down, and I'm on a steelhead. So, I think the pink salmon on the North Shore can certainly teach you a lot about the steelhead on the North Shore if you're new to it. I think if you're if you're a seasoned angler, experienced fly fisherman, you're probably going to do just fine, regardless. But I think the pink salmon can kind of help you unlock some extra fish, some bonus fish, and some new spots for steelhead in the spring.
I love that. That's awesome. I went to really put 2 and 2 together. That's a very good answer. So, how do you keep like your gear and your setups from just being complete chaos when have all these species in your mind? I feel like that would just drive me bonkers.
Yeah, I mean the truth of it is if you want to like go out and have specific species in mind, you gotta have multiple setups. There's no way around it. But when it comes down to it, it's like I think people can overcomplicate it sometimes too. There's plenty of fish that will eat the same thing. Like everything's gonna eat a woolly bugger. If you want to
Yeah.
go out there and just have a multi-species day, it's a great option. I've caught everything on woolly buggers. I've caught uh, you know, brown trout, brook trout, salmon. I've caught I've caught carp on woolly buggers, bass. There's really nothing that won't eat that. So I think, if you just kind of streamline your setups geared towards that, you're not really gonna run into that chaos that much, I don't think. But really, yeah, if you want to do driftless trout one day and you want to do uh, you know, Mississippi smallmouth another day, yeah, you gotta have multiple setups. So that's part of it with multi-species is, especially if you get really into it, that's what you want to focus on. Yeah, you kind of have to have something for everything.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Do you think when people, kind of choose that lifestyle as an angler, do you think people can get like too obsessed with gear instead of like actually learning the fish behavior and learning how to just fish?
Um, I think to a degree, but also, I mean, I think you just gotta fit, like, do people get too focused on gear? Like, yes and no, because, a lot of times spending more money on a fly rod's not gonna catch you more fish, but at the same time, if you buy some gear that you like, you're gonna fish more confidently, and I think fishing more confidently leads to more fish.
Yeah, I
So
like
you gotta
that.
have the gear you're confident in. You know, if what you like is, nice, fancy, engraved able reel, if that's gonna get you out there and fishing more, that's gonna have you fish more confidently, if, expensive, fancy flies versus just a woolly bugger you throw together on your own vise is gonna, think in your head you're gonna catch more fish, you probably will. It comes down to it, like, realistically, no, but,
Mhm.
yeah, whatever gets you, whatever gear gets you fishing confidently, you
I
know?
like that answer. That's a great answer. Yeah, I mean, honestly, fishing is a lot of confidence. I mean, when you're not confident, well, with anything in life, you just you don't do it right, and you get stuck in your head. And especially fly fishing, like you can, if you're starting out new and stuff, you can go down such a rabbit hole of like, I'm doing this wrong, I'm doing this wrong, I'm doing that wrong, I'm doing that, and it's like just fish. And it'll start to come together, and then you build that confidence, and then it's like, okay, everything's coming together in one little group, and that's how you start to become an efficient angler. So that's a great answer. I like that.
Yeah, I think too, like, if you're out there and you're not fishing confidently, and I know this happened to me personally. I've had, low confidence in the day, low confidence in the spot, low confidence in whatever I've got tied on, and I've gotten a bite and missed it just simply because I wasn't locked in, I wasn't paying attention. So if you're fishing confidently and you get a bite, you're more likely to hook that fish for sure.
Absolutely. And then yeah, if you miss three or four, your confidence starts to go downhill quick, and then you're getting
Yep,
tangled in trees, you're getting tangled in everything, and then it's like my day just went from good to not great. But hey, it's always good to be out. It's always good to be doing what you love. So I always got to have those
absolutely.
reminders. That's if you had to guess right now, I'll put you on the spot. How many? We'll say fly rods and spin rods and just all of your rod collection. What's the number at?
I would say ballpark probably ice rods too. We're counting ice rods.
Yeah, we're doing it all, man.
Alright,
Yeah, I
yeah,
wanna know.
yeah, I'd say 25 to 30 ballpark.
Okay,
I've
okay,
I've got a little something for everything. I've got,
sure.
multiples of certain things too, so, yeah, I would say 25 to 30, which some people, not me, would say is too many. I don't think that's too many, I don't know. There have been times, I live in an apartment building, there's times I've, had, 5 or 6 rods in my hand going up the elevator, and people are looking at me like I got a problem. And
Like, what's this guy
maybe I do,
doing?
I don't know, I won't admit it. But
Maybe we all do, but hey,
yeah,
there's worse things you could, have a problem with, right?
for sure,
That's for
absolutely.
dude, that's awesome. I mean, I honestly, I thought you were gonna say, like, 50, so I was like, "Okay, okay."
No, and yeah, honestly too, I've gotten more recently just because the budget's allowed, but or at least I have allowed my budget to allow it. I don't know if the budget's actually allowed
Yeah,
for it.
that's a better thing.
A professional accountant might have something to say about it, but, uh, yeah, I've got a list. We'll get to 50 shortly.
Yeah, yeah, you gotta get there. You gotta
Yeah,
get there, and it's just fun to collect. I mean, I'm a collector at heart, like, I love to collect stuff, like, my parents were just at a garage sale, and I always tell them, "If you're ever at garage sales, you come across an old fly rod, just please, please, please buy it," and they just picked up a Shakespeare, like, Wonder Rod fiberglass, and I am fired up to get it out and try it. It's a little 7
awesome.
footer. Yeah, dude, it's
3
sweet.
weight?
I'll show you next time we get out. I'm gonna get it rigged up a little bit, but I want it to just kind of be, how it was when whoever was using it. But I think it'll work. We'll see. I got to get it out and cast it at least. But I mean, worst case, just flop it out there, and I'm sure we can get a little brown to bite.
Fish it confidently and you'll catch a fish.
See, look at that. That's the theme. Hey, there you go. What's the theme of this episode, man? We talked about where we kind of wanted to take this direction. So if you had to give today's episode a theme, what is it?
Yeah, I mean, I guess, yeah, fish confidently. Fish confidently, but, be adaptable, be flexible. Don't be afraid to go against conventional wisdom. Everybody, the secret spots are secret spots for a reason. Right? There have been plenty of times I've been fishing for fish out of the season that they're supposed to be good to fish in, and gotten on a decent bite.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, I guess, and I should ask you this right away. When did you start, like, fishing? Was it at a young age? Were you introduced?
Yeah, I've been doing it as long as I can remember. I obviously started with bluegills off the dock like everybody else, but I don't know why I love fishing as much as I do. I mean, my dad fished with me growing up. He would tell you, he said this before. He would tell you that he taught me how to catch bluegills off the dock, and I learned everything else on my own. So I
Dang,
don't know. It's not like my dad was a big fisherman. I'm pretty self taught. My dad has never touched a fly rod. Well, I got him to
same.
catch a steelhead on a fly rod.
Oh,
Actually, yeah, he did come up to visit me. Almost forgot about that one. Yeah, he was fishing a spinning rod for
mhm.
steelhead because he had never touched a fly rod, and he got all tangled up. So I handed him my fly rod and caught a steelhead. So yeah, that was pretty cool.
Dude,
But
like,
but
his
yeah,
first fish ever on a fly rod was a friggin' steelhead?
yeah. I've
Dang,
been fortunate enough to be with several people where their first day holding a fly rod, they caught a steelhead. So we're
dude.
gonna get you one. Is what I'm trying to
I mean,
say.
yeah, I gotta have at least a little leg up then,
Yeah,
jeez.
yeah. I
Dude,
mean,
that's phenomenal. Tell me more
yeah.
about that story with you and your dad. That seems like a good story.
Yeah, I mean, it was late steelhead season, which is a good time to be out there, especially after walleye opener, because everybody's fishing walleyes. So you get the river mostly to yourself, which is not often the case on the North Shore River. Anybody who's fished the North Shore rivers during peak steelhead season knows it can be shoulder to shoulder out there. But it was late season. We went down the river, back up. We were seeing fish. In late season, those North Shore rivers get shallow enough you can spot fish often. Um, and we'd gone all the way down this section, all the way back up, and we went a little further up than where we started at, and spotted a group of fish. And my dad threw his spinning rod up there, got caught in a tree. So handed me the rod. I said, "You can do this. Here's my fly rod. Just flip it up in front of him." Like two flips in front of him. Nice fish, 27-incher came up, grabbed the fly, and took off upstream. And I almost floated my waders trying to net it because I know he didn't get a good hook set. But we got it in the net. It was pretty special, and he has not come steelhead fishing with me since.
What?
It's all right. It's all right.
That's
It's yeah. Anybody who's fished those rivers know it can be a young man's game sometimes. It's
that's
tough
fair.
footing. It's a lot of walking uneven surfaces. My dad's which I think is perfectly fine. He's a lawn chair side of the river kind of fisherman.
Oh, yeah, there's nothing wrong.
Partially because it's easy. Partially because he just loves the idea of you never know what you're gonna pull out of a river. So
Yep.
it's a fun grab bag. But yeah,
Dude,
that's
yeah,
that's the steelhead story with my dad. It's first day
that's
for
awesome.
first 3 casts with a fly rod. So
Wow. Yeah,
yeah,
I feel like
pretty
that's
pretty
pretty
good.
rare. Yeah, was he impressed at the power of the steelhead, or was he just kinda like, "What?"
Yeah, I think he blacked out.
Yeah, that's gonna be
Yeah,
me.
yeah. He didn't really know what was going on. I think till we got it in the net. But the fish literally it grabbed the fly and it just straight upstream. Just
Dang.
straight upstream. And I was zigzagging the river trying to get it in the net and got a lucky scoop. I think so.
There you go.
Worked out.
Sometimes that's all it takes. Lucky
Yeah.
scoop. Lucky scoop. So we've talked about, confidence and adapting pretty heavily in this episode. So tell me about a day where, everything went wrong out on the river, out on the lake, but you figured it out. Go a little more into how, that kind of looked in your world.
Yeah, we got a couple mutual friends who are familiar with this one. I last spring I did a smallmouth float with Mitch and Caleb, both former channel featured folks here,
Yes.
and I was having a rough day out there. I kept breaking off. Mitch and Caleb were catching fish. I wasn't. Yeah, it's normal. Those guys are sticks.
They are.
But yeah, I was having a really tough day out there. I think I was trying to do too much. Like I was throwing an NLBN shrimp, on a bait caster. Just not it's a world class fly fishery, and I'm throwing a
Yeah.
plastic shrimp. And I was just trying
Yeah.
to do too much out there, and
Yeah.
I just got frustrated, and I felt bad because Caleb caught a monster, like 22 and a half, huge smallmouth, and I just like wasn't in the mood. you know, I felt bad. I was having a rough day out there, and
Mhm.
but I think I think it's important to just kind of remember why you're out there. I started catching fish, that helped for sure. But like, I was out there to have fun with my buddies, be on the river, enjoy a day outside, and turned it around, turned it around mentally. And we ended up having quite the day out there. I finished the day with a nice 20-inch smallmouth. So broke a
Fly
PB, and
rod?
if on a fly rod, yeah,
There you
yeah,
go.
yep, game changer, Mitch Tide. So
Sounds about
yeah,
right. Sounds about
yeah,
right.
yeah. We turned it around and had a great day out there. It was a lot of fun. Look back on that one fondly, and despite despite my antics to start that day, I got invited back and had many nice floats out there with those guys.
There you go. Yes,
Yeah,
that's awesome. I love that. I think they're probably out doing that when any day now. I'm sure they have been hitting it. Looks like pretty good. So yeah, it's
yeah,
that time of the year again.
yeah, for sure. And and I'm sure the question was meant to be more like stuff going wrong fishing wise. I
No,
think like just going back to that Au Sable trip too, that Au Sable trip
mhm,
that I took last fall too. Like I drove really far to get there. I showed up. The Atlantic salmon were all in spawning beds.
yeah,
That's not my jam.
yeah,
Um, I just had a really great time enjoying the scenery, throwing the spay rod. I met a guy named Wayne out there. We still keep in touch. I just, you got to remember what it's really about sometimes. Like the
you
fish are
do.
very secondary.
Yeah,
Honestly, like if you never caught a fish, you'd never go. But we're out there to enjoy the nature, get out of the, you know, 9 to 5 hustle and
yes,
bustle, and you see some cool stuff out there. Some stuff you wouldn't see if you didn't go.
yeah. Sitting on the couch,
Even
see it. You're never gonna have the experiences.
yeah,
That's the whole battle right there. Like, yeah,
yeah. I
just
mean,
get out there. Just
you,
go.
you you're one cast away from a PB at all times, and the bite is never good on the couch. So
Never good. Never good.
yeah,
Nothing.
yeah, absolutely.
That's awesome, and I know that's a great story. I love that. That's a good story of just, yeah, being out, hanging out with friends, and, yeah, sometimes it sucks, and, yeah, the guys are catching fish, well, alright, I'm gonna switch it up and do what you're doing.
Yeah. I don't think it helped my mood that they made me take a picture of their double before I'd even caught one.
Yeah,
That didn't
yeah,
help.
they're
That's
probably we
that's
gotta plant that seed and
I I should've I mean, I should've known that was coming. Those guys are sticks. They catch a lot of fish. You don't need me to tell you that. Those guys are
yeah,
better than me.
dude, yeah, you're good too, man, you're good too. Give yourself some credit, be confident, dude.
It's good point. Good point. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I do alright. I
Absolutely,
do alright.
absolutely. So, I'll give you another, like, kinda species-specific question, and this might be the same answer you've had. If someone just wanted to really start to learn about other species, what is that species that they should target first to try to kinda open that gate for them?
Well, I think
We'll keep it Midwest specific too.
yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know. And that's the thing is like I don't know if I can name a specific species. I think the species that is going to teach you the most about other species, the species that's going to get you out there, is just whatever
Mhm.
you're most interested in catching. Like
Yeah.
you're going to learn more if you're motivated to be there. If you're catching fish that you are interested in catching. For some people like Caleb, that's smallmouth bass. You know what I mean? Like that's what drives that guy to go fish is catching a smallmouth bass. I mean, and he's a multi-species guy too. Great at carp, great at bowfin. His first trip to the Brule, like 10 drifts and he caught a steelhead.
Yeah.
So, he's a stick no matter what. But, what motivates him to get out is fishing smallmouth bass most of the time. So if that's going to get you out there, that's what's going to get you learning things, and you can apply that across species. It's really just whatever intrigues you the most, I think. But yeah, as far as like what fish is going to be have like the most skills to transfer to others. Um, I guess smallmouth bass are a great answer, to be honest, because they live in all different kinds of bodies of water. Um, they're not too picky. I mean, you can have tough days out there for sure, but they'll usually tell you what's working. You can fish from all different kinds of ways. Last year we did a float, and I just made it a mission just to see how many how many different ways I could catch a smallmouth bass.
That's sweet, dude.
And I
Yeah.
ended up catching them 11 different ways. So that at least at the very, it just helped me practice those different styles of fishing too. I mean, you can throw jerk
Jeez.
baits, glide baits, different kinds of top waters, flies, any kind of fly. You can throw bottom contact flies. You can throw, big streamers, top water flies for sure. Caleb loves a wiggle minnow. I'm hoping to get my first wiggle minnow fish this year. I've never fished one. He makes it look easy. Um, so I think, they're pretty forgiving fish for the most part, and it's a great way to just practice different styles of fishing, you know? I've thrown the spay rod for them plenty. Throwing the spay rod for smallmouth allowed me to have success this spring fishing steelhead on the spay. Absolutely. Just getting used to what happens when a fish bites, you know, how to react. Because you don't set the hook with a spay rod. You kind of let the fish go and it hooks itself, sort of. So, you know, fishing smallmouth bass kind of allowed me to get over that knee jerk reaction of setting the hook every time you
Yeah,
feel pressure. Um, it's easy to know when your swing's working and when it's not, because when it's working, you'll get a fish, you know, with smallmouth. When, you know, when it's not, you won't. And with steelhead, you can be doing everything right and not get one. So it kind of helps you figure out what works and what doesn't. So I would say smallmouth bass are a great great place to start if you just need to get out there and learn. They'll tell you what you're
sweet.
doing right and wrong.
Yeah, no, that's a great answer. I didn't expect that answer. That's a good one. I like that. I like it a lot. Yeah, I mean, like you said, there's so many different ways you can catch them. I mean, 11 different ways. That's bizarre. Did you go out there and noodle? Did you try to get one with the hand?
I did not, but I did throw one of August's big bucktail streamers at one point
Yeah,
and crushed it boat side. One of the coolest eats I've ever seen. It was awesome.
that would be cool. Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
yeah,
watching those eats are pretty electric to say the least
yeah.
from
I
someone
I took
who's
a picture and DM'd it to him immediately.
I bet he
Big
thought that
bucktail.
was pretty neat.
Yeah, yeah, I think so,
That's
yeah.
awesome. That's cool. So I've personally asked you this question just over, conversations and stuff, but if someone is thinking about branching out and trying to chase new species, what would you say to them?
Do it.
Do it.
Absolutely. Just, pick something, that interests you, give it a try, don't be afraid to get skunked, and don't be afraid to go against conventional wisdom, you know? Like, I found lake trout in shallow water in the middle of the summer. Everybody thinks you gotta be in 250 feet. I've caught them from shore. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
you know, I've caught burbot in the summertime, you know, like,
Yeah?
yeah, oh yeah. Never caught a burbot through the ice, actually. I've only caught them in the summertime, funny enough. But yeah, just get out there and try stuff, you know? And even though sometimes something feels silly, might not be. You know, you might find something that you wouldn't normally expect to find. You might find fish in an area you wouldn't normally expect to see them. Like last year, Mitch and I were out in the St. Croix. You know, we were out there for walleyes and smallmouth, and we ended up finding a whole bunch of quillback suckers eating cottonwood seeds off the surface. You know,
That's
so next
sweet.
time
Yeah, you didn't
next
tell
time
me
we
about
went out there, yeah, next time we went out there, we had some Mitch had some cottonwood seed flies, and we didn't end up catching any, but you know, it's something you know you wouldn't normally expect, you know, but give it a shot, you know?
yeah. Huh.
So you just getting out there and trying stuff.
Yeah, no, that's a great answer, and I'll kinda side answer that question from someone who's just kinda getting into, that world and getting curious about it. I would say ask questions and don't be afraid to I'm not gonna say be vulnerable, but just don't be afraid to put yourself out there and be like, "I don't know." Like, if you're talking to someone who, has more experience, just be straight up with them. Like, "Hey, how do I do this? What's a good setup? What's a good way to do this? What's a good fly? Like, what's a good fly rod?" Like, ask the questions. I ask you a ton of questions. I ask Mitch a lot of questions. I ask August, ask the questions. And honestly, everyone you probably ask, regardless where you are in the world, is probably going to give you good feedback because that's just kind of how a community works of people who like to do the same thing. So, yeah, don't be afraid to ask questions because it is intimidating to try to, look at other species and do other things when you've maybe just thought, okay, I'm only going to fly fish for trout the rest of my life. Well, there's a lot of doors you could open up. So, don't be afraid to ask questions.
Certainly. Yeah, absolutely. Be a student of the game always.
Yeah.
And you know, from you run into your curmudgeons every now and then, but my
Yeah.
experience, and I think yours as well, people are willing to help, you know? If you approach it the right way, if you're willing to do the right things, you
Yes.
know, then I think people are pretty willing to help. You know, there's plenty of times I've been out steelhead fishing and somebody's told me I've never caught one. I really want to catch one. And I'll give them a a fly or a bag of beads
Yeah.
right out of my bag.
Yep.
Just like, here, try this. What are you doing? I'll usually ask them a few questions. What are you doing? How long you been
Mhm.
doing this? Where have you tried? I'm not going to give up secret spots. Granted, in the North Shore there's no secret spots, but
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not I'm not going to give you too much, because to me personally, especially growing up self-taught for the most part,
Yeah.
that's been so much of the fun of it, is just experiencing it myself and figuring things out on my own. When you go try something and it works, it's great. When somebody tells you, hey, you can go here and kill them, and you do, it's awesome. But those days where you go try something new and it works out. Maybe you catch 1 or 2 fish, but it works. So rewarding, at least to me. So, I think, yeah, absolutely ask questions, be a student of the game. People are willing to help. And, especially here in Minnesota and the Midwest in general, I think you could speak to this exactly. Going to the expo in March, just striking up conversation with people, it's a great, if as long as
Yeah.
you approach it well, approach it
Mhm.
right, approach people in the right way. It's
Yes.
a great way to just learn and meet people, make friends, have opportunities.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you never know where it can go. And you have a great call out too, just doing things right. Respecting the water, respecting the land, respecting the fish. Like if you're, doing those three things and just being a decent human being, like most people are very willing to share their knowledge, which is awesome. Absolutely. So I got a couple fun wrap up questions for you. I've been hitting everyone with this one lately. Your favorite river snack or lake snack, whatever. What do you like to bring with you?
Victory beer. Always. There's nothing better on the side of a river than a Victory beer, but,
Yes. Agreed.
if that's excluded, I love a pistachio muffin.
Pistachio muffin?
Yeah, yeah, out on the river in the morning,
Dude,
especially some of those North Shore days, you're sitting there waiting for the sun to come up. It's, 30
okay.
minutes before sunrise, legal fishing hours, hour
Yeah.
before sunrise, whatever it is. I don't fish till the sun comes up, but, sitting there waiting, listening to the sounds of the woods, watching the river, munching on a pistachio muffin, that's my happy
Okay,
place.
okay.
Definitely.
I don't think I'm in love with pistachios, so I might have to, like, do a blueberry or a banana nut muffin if we go out, but I'll give pistachio a try. I'll give it a try.
It's kind of a bummer. I don't know if Quick Trip has them anymore. I haven't seen them in a while.
I've never seen a pistachio muffin in my life,
Yeah,
man.
used to
Yeah,
be my go-to is the Quick Trip pistachio muffin. I've been going for
interesting.
the lemon blueberry or the lemon poppy seed lately, but
Big poppy seed guy. Yep, I
I've
can get on board with that. Yeah.
I've got a picture from one of my trips where I started at the Pigeon, worked my way down the North Shore, of me sitting on the stone wall by the Cascade River with a bubbler and a pistachio muffin, and it was the best.
That's
But,
awesome.
yeah.
Are you like, will you just buy pistachios and eat them? Like, are you into that? Or more so like in
Sometimes, yeah, I'll definitely crave pistachios here and there and get a bag of pistachios, but it's like, the shells. It's like, they
interest.
kinda they can be it could literally, like, the nut cannot be worth cracking them sometimes.
That's
Juice
fair.
not
I'm a
worth the
big
squeeze, whatever the saying is, but
exact. I'm a big,
it's a lot of work.
in the shell peanut guy, like, that's one of my favorite, like, after work snacks,
Sure.
and, like, dude, when I'm done, like, the table is just filthy, and I'm like, "Okay, well, now I gotta go clean up, so I'm just gonna eat peanuts outside moving forward."
Yeah. Yeah.
One of those
Yeah,
things,
no,
but yeah.
generally, like, those seed snacks, I'm not a big, sunflower seeds guy. Peanuts in shell, not so much, but I'll do the pistachios here and there, but sometimes it's just like, it's not that I don't like it, it's just it's a lot of work, you know?
It is a lot of work, it is.
So,
I
yeah.
got, I got an idea. So we go up in May here, steelhead fishing. I can probably convince my wife to make some pistachio muffins or pistachio cookies. So
S
I'll work that angle for you.
You're gonna eat one. We're gonna sit on the side of the river,
I mean,
eat
yeah,
a
I have
pistachio
to.
muffin.
Yes, if my wife's making them, I have to, or otherwise I'd be in trouble. So yes, I will.
Be awesome. Let's do
That's
it.
awesome, man. Yeah, that sounds like a blast. So, one more question for you, and every angler has this vision and this question probably always in their head, but dream destination, dream species, what does that look like for you? One day you gotta cross it off the list.
Number 1 bucket list species since I was a little kid has always been a sailfish. Saw it on, Blue Planet documentary when I was a kid, sailfish, number 1. Might get the chance to cross that off,
Yeah?
early next year, early '27, I'm gonna be in Sanibel for a wedding. So I'm thinking that might be my time to go out and try to get a sailfish, but, if we're talking top 3, golden dorado,
Yeah,
Hucho Taiman, those
yeah.
are those are up there for sure. Yeah, Bolivia and, for the golden dorado and, uh, trying to remember the name of the country, just there north of
Yeah.
China. Oh, man.
Mongolia?
Mongolia, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
Mongolia,
Yeah.
Hucho
Yeah.
Taiman, yeah, yeah. When I was
Yeah.
in college, I had a ichthyology professor, and his research was on Hucho Taiman, and those have always kind of intrigued me, but, sitting through a couple lectures specifically about it, that's absolutely rocketed up the list for me, and the way they do a lot of the research on Hucho Taiman there is by, having scientists, researchers in boats with fly fishermen.
Yeah.
The fly fishermen will catch the taimen, and they'll take DNA samples,
Yeah.
measurables, all that stuff. So fly fishing is the
Interesting.
preferred method of sampling those fish.
I could see that. That makes sense to me. Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. That's a good list. You wanna try to take a guess at mine?
Oh man, we haven't talked about this, have we?
We have not, and I don't think a lot of people know, and it's you're probably gonna laugh because it's not like a super, like, I mean, it's to me, it's awesome, but a lot of people be like, "Yeah, you can go do that next weekend, buddy."
Okay, yeah.
I do
See,
have to leave. I will give you a hint. I will have to leave the country, though.
oh, okay, all right.
Yes. But you were probably on the right track.
I think I was off, to be honest, because I was thinking like just knowing you, thinking like of what you like. I was gonna guess like South Island, New Zealand brown trout.
That's number 2.
Number
Yeah,
two, all right, I was close.
yeah.
I was close. Yeah, I don't know. You could do it next weekend.
Yeah.
Oh man, something in
We're
Canada.
not far from, yeah, we're not
Something in
far from,
Canada.
yeah, brook trout in Canada,
Oh
man.
yeah,
Yeah, the big brook.
the
Yeah.
Nipigon, the
Yeah.
coasters. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Yep.
I looked into that. I
Yeah.
looked into that. I thought about doing that this fall, but I think I'm gonna go out west and swing for silvers and chums. Gonna give that a shot.
Sounds fun too.
Yeah,
That's
people are
awesome.
like, "Why are
It's
you going that far and not fishing steelhead?" I'm telling you, salmon get too much hate.
Yeah,
Salmon get too much
I think
hate.
they kinda do. I never really realized that until I started kinda chatting with you, but I feel like they do get a little bit of hate, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you step out of your truck wrong time of the year at a river that's full of king salmon, you can smell them.
Yeah.
So like I do get it from that standpoint. They get to a point where they get to be some real boots. But you hit them at the right time. You hit them early in the run. They'll eat readily. They fight hard. I mean, they'll jump. They're a great time. I mean, I went to eastern Wisconsin
Mm,
on a mission for king salmon one time, and with Mitch we ended up lucking into some really, really big silvers. I don't think we caught a single one that was under 30 inches.
wow.
And they were all eating strip streamers. We weren't having to drift anything. We found a pool loaded with them, and we just strip streamers right across the top, and they come up and smack it. And it was interesting there because the thing that we did to get them to eat was change up our stripping cadence. We fished that pool for hours, nothing. They were jumping, we get some everywhere. Packed river, so we couldn't move a whole lot. But we fished there for hours, nothing, 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 nothing. Switch up the stripping cadence a little bit, and we caught 3 in like 20 minutes.
Isn't that
So
bizarre?
yeah, that's kind of what I'm talking about earlier, like paying
Yeah,
attention to detail and things like that. Yeah,
yeah.
Mitch was taking a nap on the bank when I hooked the first one. I only let him sleep for like 5 minutes. I mean, we had been up a long time. It was late in the afternoon. We had gotten up early and drove all the way there from the cities.
Gosh.
So
Yeah,
yeah. It was a real, real brutal trip there. But
yeah.
he was taking a nap on the bank, well deserved nap, and I hooked one, and he was like, "What do we do different?" And I was like, "I just start switch up my stripping cadence." He took like 3 casts to the change stripping cadence, and he got one too. So
Interesting.
yeah, it was just little thing, so little change. Not a different fly, just different stripping cadence.
I've always wondered that, how many times we're like, yeah, it's just is it something so little, like, especially with streamers, like, she was like, "Is this something, just do I need to slow down? Do I need to" normally, for me personally, I need to slow down. I feel like I strip too fast, too hard for the brown trout and the driftless. Not always, but I feel like just slowing it down could benefit. So I think about that a lot, especially as of late.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this is a good time to be fishing streamers in the driftless.
It
Typically
is.
like
Yeah.
March. I've had some really
Mhm.
productive streamer days in March, but
Yes. March is great.
we had
Yes.
an odd March this
Yeah.
year. A lot of snow, a lot
Good.
of rain, high muddy water. It was an odd March, but
I'd
yeah, I
say
mean,
that.
sometimes it's like you need to strip fast. You need to get those aggressive fish to make a split second decision.
Yeah.
And other times, like my biggest brown I've ever caught in the drift was 21 inches. I was
Yeah.
just letting it swing through the tail out, and all of
Yeah.
a sudden, the line was going like this, and all of a sudden it started going back up the river, and I was like, it's not what it's supposed to be
Yep.
doing. So
Dude, they love
sometimes,
that.
yeah, it's just
Yeah.
it's a different. I think that's an overlooked part of it. I think people focus a lot on fly selection and not on presentation.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
sometimes honestly, like, and this is something Mitch has kind of drilled in my mind, especially with swinging. Like, what fly do you want to pick? They all work.
Sure.
It's just fishing what you're confident in, and dialing in your presentation. Um, how you present the fly. Because
Nice.
you can have caddis hatching everywhere, and if you're throwing a caddis and not getting good drifts, they're not gonna eat it. But if you get a good presentation, you could be throwing an Adams, you could be throwing a
Yeah.
hopper, and they'll come up and eat it, you know? So, yeah,
Yeah, dude, yeah.
presentation is hugely important.
It is, especially like you just mentioned with caddis, you know, they're always up there skating and dancing, like, you give your little twitch, give it a little, movement, boom, instantly,
Yep.
it's like, "Yep, that's exactly what," because
Yeah.
it looks natural. Oh, it's so fun, man, get me fired up, need to get back
Yeah.
out there.
Yeah, I've had some gnarly caddis days, man. I mean, there was one day
Good,
in the Iowa
okay,
Driftless.
yeah,
We we were throwing caddis, and, we were having birds come and pick them up off the water and then
oh,
drop
yeah,
them, and then trout will come up and eat them. It's
yeah,
crazy.
I was
Luckily,
seeing
never hooked a bird.
Yeah,
Luckily, never hooked a bird.
dude, yeah, that, last video I put out, like, I was getting close to, like, I was like, I'm gonna hook one of these little birds if I don't, slow down here." It's like it's
Yeah.
just when it's on, and everything is trying to eat it, and
Yup.
can't beat it,
Yeah,
man.
yeah, and that's one of those things too. It's like, that's a seasonal thing.
It is.
it can even be a time of day thing. And if you're
Oh,
not
big time.
if you're not putting the time out there, you're not trying different stuff,
Yep.
you're not gonna find that kind of a thing.
No,
Like when it comes to pretty predictable stuff like caddis hatches, yeah, you can read that in a book. But there's other stuff out there where it's like if you weren't here at this specific time, you wouldn't know it. I mean, on the St. Croix, like you'll find bait balls of shad, and I've thrown shad flies around those bait balls and you know caught huge freshwater drum. And it's like that's not something you would ever expect to be targeting on fly, but my PB freshwater drum came on a shad fly.
that's sweet, dude, that
Yeah,
would be fun.
yeah, yeah.
That is interesting.
It's just different.
It's just different, it's just being a multi-species guy with confidence.
Fish it confidently.
There you go. Well, awesome, Dad, this was a great conversation. Anything else you wanna shout out or closing thoughts there on your end?
No, I mean, I got nothing to promote. I would say, check out all my extremely talented friends, Mitch's Fly Bench, Regal Beagle Fly Fishing, August on the Fly. Hopefully I'm not forgetting anybody.
That's alright,
uh,
we can throw them in the descriptions.
yeah, yeah. Keep watching Ketter at the cabin. It's gonna be a great year.
It is.
Stay
We're
tuned,
gonna
Ketter
get into some
Nation.
stuff. Yes, we're gonna get into some stuff. It's coming.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's coming. Awesome, man. Well, awesome. I will, thank you for, taking the time, Dan, to jump on, and it's a
Thanks
big
for
busy
having me.
time for us, we got Wolves Wild, so we had to squeeze this into a night
Absolutely.
where, you know, we had to squeeze it
Yeah.
in.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know how long it's gonna take for this to come out, but we got 2 game sixes coming up tomorrow.
Yeah, that's a good point. We're probably gonna be, watching this, this is gonna be scheduled for it'll be coming out mid-May, so we could be really happy or we could be both really sad.
Something's gonna happen tomorrow. Something's gotta break.